So now that we got this M42 turbo started, we're starting to see some problems, and we need to attack those problems head on today in this video and get this thing moving on its own power and operating within the right temperature limits. So after we had this thing started, we identified, take a look.
So this is a brand new Garrett turbo, and it is not spinning as freely as I'd like.
Okay, so after trolling the internet for help, because I'm not really a turbo expert, I'm slowly becoming one, but I'm getting there. We identified that this turbo is actually bad and we have to replace it. And I've got a better one here to do that with. I believe that this is a ball bearing turbo. It's the same form, fit, function size as the TA3410 that we have in here now. So it should be relatively easy to replace it, put it in, and then we can restart it again to see how the sound of the engine changes. Does it bog up when we give it a little bit of gas? Did we eliminate that exhaust restriction that we had before, which is causing excessive heat and excessive buildup and excessive temperatures everywhere in the car? And I think that we actually can do that relatively easy since the turbo is kind of right up here and easy for us to operate. So let's do that right now. So in everything that I've been researching, when you start a turbo engine, the intake turbine should just spin freely, just from the exhaust gases at idle. That was not happening here, so I was immediately a little bit worried. So I wanted to see, how does this thing move if I just spin it with my finger? So when you rev the engine, it will spin this eventually, but the excessive heat is causing more and more problems and it's binding up more and more. Eventually it'll fail, completely block up, and then cause the engine to fail because of the exhaust back pressure, which is catastrophic. So we want to stop that before we get that chance. So let's just replace this turbo with this turbo that we know is good and spins freely, and then see how this engine works. So to replace this turbo, it's actually quite easy. You got your air outlet side, that's easy to do. The existing turbo already has that in place. We've got our oil feed, which this, by the way, does have oil, you'll see in a minute. The exhaust port is exactly the same location. The intake port is the exact same location. Everything about the turbo is exactly the same. Accessing the bolts should be relatively easy. As you know, this is a V-band flange. We've got some bolts down there. Let me see if I can get some light on this. You see a nut down there. You got a nut down there, and you got a nut over there. So you got 4 nuts that'll remove it from the exhaust manifold. So that's actually going to be pretty easy to do. So we'll just do things one at a time, and we should be able to easily just take this whole turbo, plop it right on out. Okay, that didn't take too long. It actually took about 3.5 minutes to remove that whole turbo. Good opportunity to do some paint work in there and clean that up too. But the problem that I might have is the drain line. The drain line here is going to be a little bit different than the other turbo. The connections are a little bit different, so we'll have to figure that out. But everything else should still be standard the way it should be. So I feel pretty good about putting the other turbo on relatively easily and see where this goes from here. Let's take a look at the other turbo. And there's both of them right here. So this is the old one, hardly moving, and the new one. One really cool thing to note about the exhaust flange nuts is that I actually had a unique problem where the vibration of the car and everything was actually loosening those nuts off of the flange. And the old turbo, the good turbo rather, it actually has a mechanism for preventing that. They're lock nuts. I'll show you what they are. So these things literally kind of sit into place like this, right? And they sit on top of the nut. And when you tighten the nut all the way down, they are supposed to, you can clock them like this, so that they sit up against the flange. And when they sit up against the flange, that means that they're not going to loosen anymore. So that actually is a really good method for keeping these things in place. Pretty neat idea. I like it, and I want to subscribe. Okay, so we've got our new turbo installed. Take a look here. It is spinning nice and free, just like we expect. We got our oil feed, our oil return. Everything is lining up and tightened up and ready to go. So I'm going to open up the garage door, and then I'm just going to give it a quick start, and we'll see how this thing idles, because I'm actually really curious to see if it starts up on the first time. And I'll tell you why. When I start this thing up for the first time on cold start, it usually dies down after it idles. It just idles and it dies down. It suggests that there's a backup on the exhaust that's preventing it from idling correctly. I think that that's hopefully going to be fixed with the introduction of a good turbo. And of course, when it spins, if it's spinning at idle, I think we got another good sign that we're in good shape. Pump on and start. Okay. All right, battery's dead, but it's okay. We can jump it really quick, and then we'll be right back. See, it's doing the same thing it did before. A little bit of gas, and it dies out. You just have to let this warm up for a bit. A little over 40 here. Okay, so some conclusions that I can draw here. The turbo is spinning really nice. It spins really nice. I do feel a little bit less back pressure, a little bit less restriction. The temperature was running, it's still pretty hot, but it was running really, it was a little bit lower. So I'm very happy with that turbo. I'm going to leave that alone. There's still a lot of things that I need to work on, drivability, runnability issues. I've got a couple of leaks that I'm working on right now. So that's all part of the integration process. I'm serious, guys. That is part of the integration process. You start off rough, you start off just getting things in, getting things working, and then you think you got it all, right? You think you got it all figured out, and then you start the engine. And then you move the car, and you realize that there's like clunks, and there's leaks, and there's vibrations, and there's, things that happen when things warm up and then cool down. So you got to figure these things out and troubleshoot as you're going, and just do one thing at a time. Here, we've got a lot of things here. We've got a lot of moving parts in this vehicle. Everything is new, everything is custom, everything is supposed to fit together and designed to be working together, and you need, as the integrator, to have the responsibility to get it running correctly and making sure everything is working. And that's kind of the phase that we're at right now. Let's tune it. Let's take care of the leaks. Let's then go for a drive and see if there's an alignment problem. Are there any suspension clunks? Things like that. So anyway, I've talked on long enough. Guys, that's all I have for today's episode. We're going to take care of some of these issues in the next episode. We're going to get this thing finished, and then we're going to go for our first drive. Guys, thanks a lot for watching. Take it easy.